afraid I wasn't enough. It was about putting a mask on.
Externally, I appeared enormously confident.
I have experienced deep loneliness.
That was what he wanted, his Porsche, his big house.
Everybody wants to be famous these days, don't they?
It's all perfect imagery, it's all photoshopped.
Levels of social trust plummeted.
The population has grown idiotically.
We've got a massive inequality.
Climate change, destruction of the rainforests.
The trouble is, if we keep going the way we're going, I think we're going to end up with a very unhappy society with a lot of very, very unhappy people and a planet that's irreparably damaged.
But what's our legacy for future generations?
How do we make the world a better place?
I've never really thought why people tell lies. I know people do tell lies. You think, why? They're worried about people realising that they're not the person that they say they are.
Well, it comes from fear, doesn't it? A fear of what people think of you. You know, there's such a lot of pressure to conform to the way that everyone else behaves and everyone else thinks.
I was afraid I wasn't enough. It was about putting a mask on. It was about not believing that I'm good enough. It wasn't even that it was an unacceptable truth I was hiding. I was hiding because I felt not good enough in that moment.
You're telling that lie because you don't want to expose yourself for who you are, the defect in yourself.
And of course then sometimes people tell lies to themselves. One half of the brain holding the lie and the other managing to accept it.
You know, if the world is too scary, if your wife doesn't love you, but you don't accept that because of the reality of that, it's just too terrifying, for instance.
It's a really common thing for people to not be able to extricate themselves from the web of lies that they've been telling for years and years and years and years.
It's constantly this riddle of another layer of lie upon lie. And they probably lose sense of who they really are as their own story.
Do you ever tell lies?
No.
Never?
No. She does. No, I never do.
Thank
you.
Generally to get what they want. Just need something, but telling the truth wouldn't get it. You just lie about it. You get it.
People say, oh, politicians do nothing but lie. And I always reply with, well, you can't get elected and tell the truth. It's just not possible. You cannot tell people, I'm going to give you this, and this, and you're going to have to pay more tax to get it. You're going to tell them, I'm going to give you this, and this, and not raise taxes.
I think lies are often born of secrets which are born of fear. When we end up feeling vulnerable, we have two routes. We can either actually express that vulnerability or we can pretend to be otherwise. What is it that I then need to break as well and let go of? Because when we do that, actually, in a way, that is greatness. When we challenge ourselves, when we challenge our own lies and say, okay, I step out of my comfort zone, I'm going to say no to this.
I didn't feel safe, and my defence was a lie.
We live in a world where everything is about perfection. It's all perfect imagery, it's all fucking photoshopped. We're not like that. We're really not like that.
This train will stop at...
Everybody wants to be famous these days, don't they?
I've done a lot of work with young people over the years, and they're very interested in the idea of just becoming famous for the sake of being famous.
Something that we're taught is desirable.
At some point in some people's lives, the yearning for that is so strong that they think that fixes whatever's missing.
People want to be something other than they are. People want to be more than themselves, I think.
My instinct says it's about lack of self-acceptance, lack of self-love, and a need to be seen from the outside.
For me, it always goes back to a fear. Something is driving a fear. Something is feeding a fear.
We look at people in the media in the spotlight and we think that their success is warranted and we would like to be validated in the same way.
We need recognition. Again, it's about recognition. It's about not working in a vacuum. It's about validation for yourself as a human being.
I think it all comes back to the same stuff. There's such basic human needs about wanting to be liked, respected, recognised, belong.
I've got a strong feeling that everyone has a really powerful need to be seen and to be heard. And if you don't get that, you're really missing out on something that's fundamental to the human experience.
That natural thing of child needing to be seen, to know who he is, maybe that's at the root of it. And so many people are growing up with their parents are so busy and caught up in their own stories that they don't have time to see their children, really see them, spend time to connect and stop and look and listen.
Nobody knows who I am, but they know the titles of some of the films I've written. They don't light up when I walk in the room. When someone says, oh, he wrote The Hunger Games, a 16-year-old girl's eyes will light up like nobody's business. Go, really? So in a funny kind of way, I've become famous in a slightly odd, at one remove kind of a way. It's a really funny thing. I used to come back off these tours that you're sent on. If your film gets nominated for an Oscar, you get sent on a tour and you're told to speak to that person. Don't speak to them, they don't have a vote in the Academy. Speak to that person. And you're constantly being fed adulation. Sometimes in a small way, sometimes in a big way. You stand in front of an audience of 500 and they all applaud. And then you come back home and you sit here and you go, you're looking at the phone going, phone's not ringing. Any emails? No. And you realise that you're missing the drug of that adulation that's been drip-fed to you over a course of a couple of weeks. It's toxic, the need for fame for the sake of fame.
There's this idea that, you know, if you are famous, then you'll be happy. Well, no. Look at so many famous people who are really not happy and very miserable. From my point of view, going out to do a concert and there's, you know, so many thousands of people there come to see you, that's a result of being famous, but actually the buzz comes from being with all those people and being able to do what you do and give them pleasure. Yeah, and there was a period of my life where I did feel that big disconnection when I sort of really, everywhere I went, I got either literally chased or just recognised everywhere. So I couldn't be sort of natural in my movements around the place. So I kind of withdrew into my house and I didn't go out, and that isn't the way I wanted to live, you know.
I think the natural state when you're born is to trust, but it starts from there and then it goes downhill.
In the environmental world in which I've operated, there are people who will use an environmental issue to sell product. You know, what they would call green bling. You know, you put a little bit of this and that on it and a bit of green smear on the outside to try to make something that's deeply distasteful into something that sounds as if it's very good and genuine. And again, as soon as you see that, I tend not to trust those individuals or organisations again. Once trust is lost in a relationship, and it must be desperately difficult to regain it, actually. I think that's probably generic in life overall.
Well, I think one of the most interesting statistics of modern times is that levels of social trust have plummeted around the Western world. In Britain, in 1959, 60% of people trusted most others. Today, that figure has halved. Particularly as we live in worlds where community breakdown has partly contributed to social distrust. We're spending so much time online, not having as much face-to-face contact as we used to, which again is ratcheting up levels of distrust. But we all need to be thinking about trust, because trust is the essence of democracy. In other words, if you don't get on with other people, you don't have communities. And if you don't have communities, you don't have a civil society. And if you don't have a civil society, you basically have variations or hues of authoritarian rule. Distrust is a function of ignorance. And the more curiosity we have, the better off we'll be. Now we need to move into a new era of curiosity about people in order to challenge prejudice, stereotypes, and to reforge social trust.
You need to be able to sit in conversations with people who have a very different view of the world than you. That's a really tough space. It's an edgy space. And how can we stay in that conversation for another 30 seconds or a minute rather than go fleeing, either physically or emotionally? It's really tough.
My default position is to trust. But I do distrust people and I do distrust things.
We need each other, and we need to cultivate relationships.
But you really need other people.
We're born to share. We're born to give and take, and we can't exist alone.
Human beings are social animals. We are not isolated individualistic creatures. Aristotle said that we are as gregarious as bees. We are politikon zoon. We are social animals.
I heard an interview the other day about a homeless person. He spent 10 years alone living in a forest. This big chunk of time just spent purely on his own. And even after that time, he never got used to it. Never, and he really did just want to fit in and just have one friend, because he, in the poignant part of the interview was he said, what was the turning point? What turned you around and what made you have another crack at life? And it was this, I turned around, I realised I didn't have one friend in the world. Not one. Yeah.
But you live your life truly alone. You're never really going to experience that point in between, the point outside yourself where people meet.
I was in a road traffic accident some years ago, and even though I was in Africa, I was a long way from anywhere. I did feel isolated, and I didn't have a support network. But I knew there were people who would be thinking of me and would run to my side if I needed it. And that's so desperately important in life, isn't it? And we know in everything from post-traumatic stress disorder and anything else you're looking at, the people who do well are the ones who've got someone who can say, don't worry, mate, come on, let's go and have a beer.
Life is premised on relationships, and not just human relationships. It's our relationship with the wider Earth community, the Earth, our land, our atmosphere.
If we're going to be happy, then we have to work for the happiness of other people and ourselves.
For 300 or 400 years, we've been sold a lie, probably the greatest piece of propaganda of modern history, which is the idea that human beings are essentially individualistic, self-seeking, selfish creatures. We don't actually need anybody. Modern neuroscience research and research in evolution biology, behavioral psychology, last 20 years, has turned that whole idea on its head. That we are not just self-seeking creatures, but we are also, alongside our selfish inner drives, we are homo empathicus. We are wired for empathy, social cooperation, and mutual aid. We are made for affection and connection. We need human contact as much as we need food or water.
That's a very interesting question.
In nature, I feel alive. If I'm on a hike or a bushwalk in a forest, noticing the birds and the temperature of the air and the sunlight coming through the leaves of the trees.
I certainly felt alive when I scored a goal in football at school. I felt alive when I fell in love. Felt alive when I made discoveries.
One way to think about it is you are at a point where past and future don't matter. You're doing something which isn't so difficult that it's intimidating and off-putting. It's not so easy that you get bored doing it. You're between, as Csikszentmihalyi said, between boredom and anxiety.
These things seem to flow through you rather than coming from you. And that's a very strange experience, to suddenly find amazing things happening that you feel are coming through you. That's quite an energizing feeling.
I think children feel it all the time, and if you ask them, they go, I don't know what you're talking about. I see my son, he hums non-stop and sings to himself, completely unconsciously, and does weird little dances. And I think there's a person who is absolutely alive and in the moment. And I think as adults, you have to relearn that.
I spend a lot of time in my head. too much time in my head. A lot of my life feels like a struggle. Writing, I don't always enjoy writing. I've got a quote on my wall from Ernest Hemingway that says, "Writing's easy. All you have to do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed."
There have been strange moments rock climbing where I felt absolutely in the moment. And you feel very alive then. Rock climbing is one of those odd sports where you cannot possibly think about anything else except what you're doing. So it's a bit like meditation, really. And all you've done is this weird vertical chess with a bit of rock in front of you. So your field of vision is very restricted and your mind is utterly focused on how to get up there without falling off. So there's a level of fear involved. And then you get to the top and you turn around and you suddenly, usually you're in somewhere like the Lake District or the Himalaya or Jordan. So you turn around and you go, oh my God, I'm here. And this incredible landscape. And a rush of something hits you. And it's not just a success of not dying, not falling off, but it's a combination of going from the precise, or going from a blank mind and returning to the world. And it's a very beautiful world on the whole. You turn around and you're looking at the green valleys of the Lake District or these magnificent desert sandstone pillars in Jordan. And you're hit with a massive rush of the beauty of the world and the beauty of the fact that you're alive in it. And it's that absolutely being in the moment which is being alive.
Well, I think we're all artists, and we lose it at school because someone says no, or you're not good enough, or something or other that makes us feel nervous and scared about our own capacity to be an artist. So we stop saying that about ourselves.
Yeah, I feel like it's making something from nothing in a way.
They are willing to explore new horizons and possibilities and are excited by that. So if they hit an obstacle, they become alive, but also in a zone where they're in their joy, they're also alive. They're engaged. They actually get excited by the obstacles they face. They actually get energised.
Art as it's constructed in our modern society is an invention of the 19th century. Prior to that, essentially artists are just painters and decorators. That's all they were. You know, the Medicis, new palace, blank wall, here, Michelangelo, do something with that. Essentially.
Everybody at some point is an artist. Everybody at some point makes something. They might not always give themselves the badge, but everybody at some point in their life makes.
Sometimes I'll watch somebody operating a machine, a big yellow thing that moves lots of dirt, say, and you watch him. And some people are, in my opinion, artists at what they do. They don't just do the job, they do it with elegance and style and complete self-confident aplomb. And to me, like the delivered job, it's art. The art in those circumstances and similar circumstances is not that he wants to do that, it's just the way he is. That's art.
If someone wants to hear about what I do, say, for a living, if they want to hear about it in an artistic way and they want to see how all the different ideas that are happening on this place are connected to other ideas using metaphor and that, then I can talk in that language. I think a lot of our way we think about things is really, it's the words we have which draw boundaries around it.
In the Western world, we've kind of forgotten what it is to be an artist. And you know, whether or not you're a farmer can be truly creative. So to be artists, that is something that is within us all.
It can be a trap when people feel bound not to allow themselves to be what they're really capable of.
I think I grew up thinking that if you make mistakes, you are a mistake.
Fear of failure is huge. You know, it's still hard to allow yourself to fail, and you'll do everything at any cost not to. I guess schooling has a lot to do with it, because what happens is that everything you ever do at school is given a mark. Everything is given a yellow or a green star or a silver or a gold star. Yeah. Or it's given a, you know, an O level or an A level or a degree or whatever. Everything is given a mark. So it seems like you've grown up in a grading system, and there's usually a kind of a break point within the grading system. So you've either made it or you haven't.
It's seen as a bad thing to fail, but all the most successful people have realized that actually, you know, your failures are very important, because that's where you learn so much. And then that's how you make your adjustments and corrections to go on and do even greater things.
The Samuel Beckett quote, try again, fail better. And actually I think failure is really important. I think we end up being scared to fail, but I think we have to accept that failure is normal. That actually I'm not scared of failure, because I think failure is a good thing in itself.
Failure is central to progress in life. How can we be in a space where it hasn't quite worked out and sit back and be playful about it rather than judging yourself? The inner chatterbox, that critic voice that speaks to me and probably many people in the world, that judges us and ridicules us. The executioner, so to speak, that we have in us. It's like a little gecko sitting on your shoulder, chirping away at a quiet voice. And some days there's a 3-metre crocodile sitting on your shoulder.
Dyson built something like 5,500 Dyson cleaners before he got one that really worked. That's what we have to do. We have to fail. not scared of failure, we have to fail.
If you fall over, falling over is not a problem. It's actually the fact that you can get back up again and carry on.
So sometimes out of failure comes greater success and therefore greater confidence. And I've seen this so many times, and when I'm advising people who are desperate after failing something, I often say to them, look, wait, you might find that it was a piece of luck.
That's the learning game. There would be no one who's had success in life who hasn't had failure.
Do I think it needs to be a better place?
That's like the biggest trick question of all time. I don't think the world needs to be a better place. The world is absolutely perfect. The people in it need to be kinder to each other.
Definitely the world needs to be a better place in terms of repression, in terms of poverty, in terms of marginalisation.
If you can imagine yourself in the shoes of someone in Syria in the midst of civil war, how would one think that the world doesn't need to be or shouldn't be a better place? In order to think that the world needs to be a better place, you need to be able to imagine out of your own life.
Having clean air and a biosphere that's alive and an ecosystem that will support itself. We're destroying all of those things. The trouble is, if we keep going the way we're going, I think we're going to end up with a very unhappy society with a lot of very, very unhappy people and a planet that's irreparably damaged. And that will come back and bite us all. I don't think we've gone that long to fix it either.
Even in Western societies that should be doing really well, we've got huge inequality and huge problems to deal with.
We need to have a more in-depth discussion about, or I guess a revisit of our Enlightenment values and really get focused on what we mean by making the world a better place, because I think we've probably lost sight of all that in these great the humanitarian, the human project, if you like. We seem to be drifting into a world that's losing that vision of what the human project is a bit and making the place better for everybody. And we're all fragmented into our battles, over this and that. And I mean, climate change is the big thing that a lot of people hope could galvanise people into focusing on the narrative of the human project again and making it a better world. But even within that, people have been distracted into all sorts of arguments and issues. So identity politics is a threat to distracting everybody from the human project. People splinter off into their little tribes. I mean, this is a conversation. A lot of people are realising the problem with identity politics and social media and fake news, all those sorts of things are causing this wedge and causing this distraction away from a human project. So, if anything, I mean, I'm glad. Is this the last question? No, it's not the last question. Well, it's the most important question because, yeah, we need focus.
It's taken forever for Western society to reach this point where these sorts of questions are being raised, and it took a financial collapse and all the rest of it. I was in China a few weeks ago, and the sad thing is that you see them having made, they could have just made, we spent the time chucking cars on our road, burning coal everywhere, creating the big pea supers and the smogs of the 50s, choking our roads with cars, and then we had to spend a fortune cleaning up our industry and then spending our life trying to get cars off the road and bicycles back on them. And if they'd been able to look at us and go, okay, well, we don't want to do that then. Instead, you've got, Beijing at 500-600 parts per million of small particulates, and the road's completely gridlocked with cars and no bicycles.
Although actually, the world is fine, and the world will be fine. But we might take ourselves out as a species, which is really stupid. And given that we're really clever as a species, what the fuck are we doing?
In relation to 95% of the population, I live like a king. I don't have any limited resources at all in terms of access to food and water and shelter. So no, my world doesn't need to get better, but the world for many, 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 many millions of people out there does need to get better, which is a difficult one for me.
If you went about it rationally and organised it properly, we'd probably have more pandas, more dolphins, more everything, more educated, healthy children, all of that stuff. We'd just have a few less rich people.
There's lots of possibilities to be able to make the world a better place. I think if we don't have that as a marker, well, it really takes away one of their higher purposes in life. How do you measure the value of a society? Some people would say gross domestic product, wealth creation. Well, I think one best measure is how we deal with the most marginalised people in society. And I think what happens in the world is that we lose sensitivity to that. We become compassion fatigued. And that's a bit dangerous.
For me, to make the world a better place, it's not going to be about changing political systems and tinkering with the economy and tinkering with the way societies run. It's actually, it's a change in the individual, and the way that they view the world and the way that they work on themselves.
We can't believe that we're going to change the world. All we can believe is that we can change the bit of it that's around us. And if we can all start doing that, then it's going to have it's going to ripple out, it's going to spread out and have a bigger effect.
You're defined by what you do, not by what you intend to do. And too many people say, well, if I had a bit more money or if I had a bit more time, I'd be more X, Y, or Z, more compassionate, more understanding, more whatever. But actually, if you're not doing it, then that's not who you are. You are what you do. So if you want the world to be better, if you want the world to be more compassionate, if you want the world to be kinder, then be kinder, be more compassionate.
I would write a law down saying that be nicer to people if you're not like that, and think what you do or think before you say something to other people might upset them, and then probably they would be mean to you back, so you shouldn't do it to them really.
I don't know, I'll get in a position of power if I try harder, and then when that's happened, I could make stuff better. Maybe.
I think the first step for making the world a better place is for every child to be taught empathy as a school subject. We need to step into other people's shoes. We all need to bring out this empathic side of ourselves, which our social institutions are not encouraging because they're based on hierarchies and on competitiveness.
The coal face of making the world a better place is engaging in a struggle with oneself. And that struggle will involve becoming more respectful to others, becoming more understanding of others. If that is what everyone's trying to do, then things will naturally go forward. Human beings are happiest when we are struggling to make the world a better place for everybody. We can do that in whatever sphere of influence we have.
How can you be appreciative? How can you reach out to another person and to yourself in a way that builds your self-esteem and the self-esteem of people around you? To have gratitude and compassion for yourself and others in the next 5 minutes. And when that 5 minutes is finished, start again.
It's about somehow taking the selfishness away. And using what you've got to help other people who might need it. And we've become really bad at that.
if I knew I couldn't fail.
If I couldn't fail, that's a world of possibilities. You've got enough time to all the things I would love to attempt. Yeah. Single-handed in a kayak from Aotearoa to Rapa Nui. Whatever, yeah. Walk alone across Antarctica. Something, yeah.
I would write a great symphonic piece of music. I'd write The Wall Part 2.
Well, the first thing before I get into it is I would enter Wimbledon. That would be my first thing. Then...
Now, I could say, oh, geez, well, I wouldn't mind expanding my business to, I don't know, sell a bit more wool, something like that. If I was to do something and I wouldn't fail, there's no way I wouldn't do something just for self-gratification.
I would find a way to make the world operate in a way that is more equitable and is not destructive to the other beings on the planet other than myself, whether those be human beings or other species.
That's the trouble with a big question like that. Your mind just goes off in a million directions all at once, because I can't simultaneously walk alone across Antarctica and run the world. Yeah, difficult. No, give my a sense of duty kicks in, and yeah, should probably get this place organised. Really should.
My first answer is my natural instinct about Wimbledon. It's entirely selfish. It's about, obtaining fame and fortune and wealth and everything that I've actually talked about. If I could do something without fail, I would bring health, happiness, and a standard of living that was good to everybody in the world. If that was a real thing and I could do something that I wouldn't fail at, I would have to choose something that wasn't just about me. I'd have to, because otherwise I would have completely squandered one of the most incredible opportunities that had ever existed. It's quite an upsetting question in some ways, because it just does bring home the fact that something really needs to happen. Oh, I was shaking.
Pretty full on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's upsetting. Just realise how little I'm doing.
Let's make the first step.
This is a beginning here.
Yes.
Because, I felt something about it, about that issue. I felt that right now as I was speaking to you, which is quite something, really.